You're tuned in to the Tools of the Trade podcast.
Hey guys, what is happening? Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Colin and I am your host. I will always be the host of this podcast, The Tools of the Trade. My guest today is Randy Brothers. Well, who is Randy? Randy is not only the owner of Elite Roofing, a two-time Inc. 5000 fastest growing private company, but he is also the founder and head coach of the Roofing Academy, author of Start It, Build It, Grow It, subtitled The Contractors Guide to Success, host of the Start, Build, Grow Show podcast, and minority partner at Summa Media, just to mention a few things that he is involved in. Randy has had a wild career from storm chasing, bankruptcy, and all the way to his current success with all of these endeavors that I just mentioned. Keep it locked, and I hope you pick up some major value from this episode. Let's go. Randy, thanks for coming on my podcast. It's been quite a while since I actually saw you last, which was when we were in Vancouver and we were going to shoot guns and hunt with the BTA guys.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was super fun. I miss those days. But the first time I actually met you up in Big White, we were having a conversation. I don't remember exactly where the conversation took place. And I was just poking and prodding and asking you how old you were. And you had this roofing company and you seemed super successful. And I said, what's your day-to-day like in your business? Because we had just started our company and I was gassed a little bit. And you said, oh, well, I kind of just decide what my day-to-day is like. I don't really have too much day-to-day involvement. And I looked back and I was thinking to myself, who is this guy? He's obviously doing something right. He's got the dream that most people are looking to achieve, which is to have life on their own terms at some point and have the business be autonomous to some degree. And now I look at you and everything that you've accomplished. You're a serial entrepreneur, founder, and I guess you're the CSO now of Elite Roofing. You hired a CEO?
Yeah, well, promoted to CEO. Yep. And then we have a VP of sales. I have a business partner and a CEO and a kind of a management team in place now, different divisions.
Beautiful. And you've hit Inc. 5000 fastest growing 2 years in a row. And
yep. That's a lot of fun.
Author of Start It, Build It, Grow It, subtitled The Contractors Guide to Success. You're hosting the Start, Build, Grow Show podcast, founder and coach at the Roofing Academy, vlogger, father, husband, Summa Media, which we can talk about a little bit. What else do you do? I don't think you could fit anything else in a schedule like that.
That's about it, man. I've had a bad habit of chasing shiny objects in the past as a serial entrepreneur, but I've gotten to a place now that I'm just like, these are my things and I really enjoy them. I'm just really trying to make the most of life and just enjoy every moment and not get too inundated with business that my family suffers, which has happened, So I've had some challenges in the past and in the recent past where, business just takes over and you tend to and you're not present mentally and you just tend to but your family, they tend to kind of fall by the wayside. And I'm trying to reverse that now where the focus is really focusing on hanging out and spending as much time with the wife and kids as I can. And then when I am working, just be super hyper efficient and then just, try to have fun the rest of the time.
That's awesome. I was going to save this part for a little bit later, but now that we're on the subject, I think it's a good segue. Do you have any tips or tricks that you deploy personally to ensure that you have some sort of balance in check, especially now that you have kids and all sorts of other commitments and a wife? Do you have any specific ways that you manage your time to ensure that you're hitting that, or maybe even conversations that you have with your wife where she keeps you in check and says, hey, you're burning the candle at both ends. I haven't seen you in a little while. You need to dial it back.
Well, part of that is I can just feel that and sense that in her, I can sense that she's like kind of gets annoyed or gets like, hey, we're here, hang out with us sometimes. But I think surrounding yourself with the right people and the right talent and the right, mindset of people really kind of helps facilitate all of that, if you will. And I don't want to be cliche here, but it's like golf, right? We were talking about golf earlier, where it takes practice. Everyone wants balance. You can't just flip a switch and have balance. You actually have to practice balance. You got to practice, segmenting out your life and segmenting out your day and your week and your weekends to have that balance. And I've always done fairly well with that. But the hardest part is switching gears and switching your mindset where you need it to be. Where you're with your family, you're hanging out, you're doing something, or you're hanging out with the kids, but you're just kind of there. Your phone's right by your side. Something happens, you get an email, you grab your phone and you check it, or so you're mentally not there. You're physically there, but mentally not there. So that's where I've struggled, and that's what I continue to try to get better. But what I've learned is it just takes practice. You have to practice, putting the phone away and not letting those distractions take away from you when you do have that precious time that you have with your kids. I mean, I have young kids and they're just growing up so fast that I just don't want to take that time for granted anymore. And, when my kid wants to play and wants to go play video games, or not even video games, but like play like Legos or go play golf or something, it's like, I want to just put everything away and get on the floor and hang out and really enjoy, even though those moments are small, but just be there and really, dive in and actually focus on that specific moment. So I think the key is that you just got to practice, be cognizant of it, and practice, being able to shift your mind away from business every once in a while. And there's things you can do personally to do that. Keep yourself, one thing I kind of teach that there's 5 elements of a balanced lifestyle. And the three key elements are mind, body, and spirit. So you want to kind of, if any one of those first 3 elements are lacking, put some energy there. If your mind's not in the right place, take a walk, take some time for yourself to educate yourself, listen to a podcast, read a book, like get your mind right, where you're always training and educating yourself, whether, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are, but you got to be right spiritually as well. And then with your body, you got to find time to work out, find time to exercise, eat right, eat healthy. And then the last 2 elements are business and family. So if you can figure out a way to kind of keep all those in check and kind of put them on a sliding scale and keep all 5 of those in check, if one of them is really slacking, put some energy there, get it back up, and just always try to maintain that balance between all 5 of those elements. I think it leads to a pretty rewarding and promising lifestyle.
Yeah, I remember, and I'm sure a lot of other people listening to this have gone through the same scenario where, as you mentioned, your phone's beside you, or maybe you're just in the early growth stages of a business, and every time that you're not putting work towards that business, you feel guilty. You think about your to-do list, which is never ending, and you think about the tasks that are never ending and all the things that you need to create this business, and you're not quite where you feel you want to be yet. And so when you go and you take that walk, or you take that 2 hours to watch a movie or read a book, or just be with yourself and be in the quiet and maybe even meditate, sometimes that can creep in and you get that anxiety where you feel that you haven't dedicated enough time to building the systems and the processes, and then that just constantly pulls your mind back. So I think keeping those 5 elements in check are huge, and that's something that a lot of people can take away for sure, is making sure that the mind, body, and spirit are in check. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. And when you get to that place where you're feeling anxious, or you're just like, you're having a hard time, or you feel guilty, like you just mentioned, I like to ask myself, or ask yourself the question, why are you doing this? Why did you start your business? You started most of us, I believe that we start our business, or we start a business, or we want to be an entrepreneur or be successful because we want freedom. We want freedom to be able to live the life we want to live. So why be handcuffed by that business because of the day-to-day activities? You know what I mean? So you got to just ask yourself, go back to the beginning, like, why did you do this? So that'll kind of help relieve some of that pressure of having to be building processes all the time or whatever. It's a big elephant. You're always going to be doing that. You're always going to be working on growing and building your business. You can only do it one step at a time. So prioritize and be very efficient. Don't let little stupid distractions of social media and all that crap, put that away, and you'll be a lot more efficient on your business. And then there's time when you just put the business away and be more efficient on your personal life or your family life.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I had seen you mention in your book, and it ties into your why, is when people have a why that is financially driven. So maybe the long-term end game is to be free, like you mentioned, but some people want to start a business because they think, I can get rich. I can have as much money as I want. There's no ceiling because I'm the boss. I have a background in construction. I've been an electrician. Now I'm going to go jump out there, and I may not be super passionate about the trade, but I know that I can make money. And one of the quotes that's in your book is trades businesses fail because of a lack of self-awareness, not lack of knowledge. In order to get better at understanding your business, you need to get better at understanding yourself first. So do you think it's possible that somebody can approach a business from a financial standpoint and have a shift in mindset? Or do you think that if you've approached a business from a financial standpoint, that you're automatically starting at a disadvantage?
I believe that people can change. I believe that people can make the shift. I'm one of those. I always was. We grew up in a home that we had what we needed, but that was it. Just the basics. You wanted above and beyond. You wanted the nice things, the finer things in life. You had to go figure out how to do it. So I had this mindset of, hey, I got to make money, and I want to start a business and be an entrepreneur because of the image and the glamour and the money and all that sort of stuff. And after, a handful of failures and some major checks in my own spirit, it was like, that's not going to give you purpose. Chasing money, chasing the dollar, it doesn't bring purpose in life. And I think you can shift your mindset to finding a purpose that's above and beyond the financial benefits. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all need to make money, and it's not a bad thing to make money. But if that's our only focus, how are we truly ever going to be happy if that's all we're focused on? So we started, me personally, I shifted my focus on helping others and trying to provide opportunities for other people. And it's part of my why, which is providing opportunities for others. And the money just comes. That's a byproduct of investing in a greater purpose, and ideally people, and investing in others and providing opportunities for other people. That's, to me, that's the most rewarding thing out there. And then the money just comes, and then you don't got to worry about that. Like, I don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I think about how I can help and pour into other people. And then just finances and money tends to kind of be a byproduct of that commitment to doing things a different way.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, you mentioned before, and I've seen this as well, looking back at, when an employee pulls into the parking lot in a new car and you were able to provide that for them, or they sent a kid to school, or they bought something nice for themselves, then that point can help give you some perspective from 50,000 feet out and say, wow, I'm giving these people a rewarding career. They're financially stable because of this machine that we've created, and I've got happy people around me. And then you can create more of a snowball effect from that.
Yeah, man. Entrepreneurship can be really lonely. If you're just chasing money, you tend to kind of put everyone else below you, and you do whatever you can to get yourself ahead. What happens when you get there? What happens when you get all the money in the world and you get all this money, but you don't have any real pure relationships and great people in your life? It's a pretty lonely place to be. I mean, you can poll. They're not going to admit it. There's a lot of big time influencers, a lot of super wealthy, super rich entrepreneurs, and all these people. But I bet you, if you peel back that onion, they're very lonely on the inside because of the conditioning that they've brought onto themselves throughout their career. And I'd like to kind of change that in my own self and influence others to kind of have a little bit of a different perspective on why they're chasing this success.
Yeah. So one of the places I wanted to start in your career was you were selling blow pops out of your backpack and making a profit on the school bus. You had kids from the neighborhood cutting grass and you're turning a profit. And then that turned into the window cleaning company and then eventually contracting. So can you kind of bring us through that path you took and speak about what happened to that contracting company?
So it's funny. Early on, it was just necessity. I mean, I always had a knack for a challenge. I always wanted to try new things. But again, it's, I couldn't really keep up with the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. I didn't have the new video games and the nice bikes and the new brand new shoes and all. It's like, okay, I'll figure it out on my own. I'll get that stuff on my own. So that was kind of what stemmed my early childhood entrepreneurship, if you will, and then upwards into contracting. I started my first construction business. I hadn't really intended on it, but it was again out of necessity. The company I was working for essentially was like, hey, we don't have any work for you for a while because we just bought property, and we're not going to have it developed in time to have you convert right after I graduated college. So within a couple months, I was like, what else I got to do? This is all I know so far is construction. So an opportunity presented itself. So I started finishing basements and started a little contracting company and went at it. And we did okay, wearing all the hats, working, burning the candles at both ends, working 7 days a week all the time, trying to make things happen. But when the economy tanked and I didn't have good process and good people around me, everything ended up kind of imploding on itself, and it failed. And I learned a lot of great lessons. Looking back, I'm kind of grateful that it happened. And I think the big lesson to be learned for entrepreneurs that are going to be listening to this is it's okay to just dive off the deep end and build your boat while you're in the water, or as John Maxwell says it, you got to jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. Too many people feel like they have to have everything in order and all their systems in order to start something. But you learn so much by just jumping off the deep end and swimming and trying to build that boat while you're in the water,
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely recommend shifting another mindset shift there for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's something that I'm always going to struggle with. No matter what I try and pursue, even this podcast, I wanted to have so many things right before I officially hit the record button. And then I said, you know what? Like, putting together the social media page isn't going to get people on my podcast to interview. So that shift happened for me recently. And I just started cold approaching people nonstop until they said yes. And then learning how to set up recording equipment and have conversations and chat with people. And that was way more informative. And I learned way more doing that than I ever would have wasting time trying to make sure it all looked pretty before it launched.
Definitely.
You would have you waste so much time doing that. And you definitely don't learn as much as you would if you have the commitment already. When somebody says, yeah, I can talk to you at 4:00, well, you better be prepared, and you're going to learn really quick if you are or not. And that drives you even further than researching a bunch and then slowly getting into it. So definitely, I would recommend the same thing, just jumping in and figuring it out.
It's kind of like a rite of passage in any business. I mean, we've done 74 episodes now with our podcast, and we interview entrepreneurs all the time, and all of them have stories like similar. Like, we did this, I failed, I learned a lot of hard lessons, but I learned, and then they became successful. So you're not going to learn everything ahead of time. You just got to kind of jump in and start making decisions and learning things, make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I believe that there's no such thing as failure. There's just quitting, right? You only fail if you quit. So just keep trying and keep trying new things. If you make a mistake or something's not working, you got to pivot and try something else.
Mm-hmm. When you hit bankruptcy with the basement company and the recession was happening, how old were you at that point?
25.
25. And what were the first few days or weeks after that failure happened? What was going through your mind? And if you're in a rut, what tools did you have to get out of that? Because everybody these days, as you mentioned, preaches failing, and it lays the foundation for later success. And you got to fail, and eventually you're going to learn and grow. But it's a lot easier said than done. So was there an inflection point there where you kind of picked yourself up and said, no, I'm not gonna stay here and be upset about what happened. I'm gonna turn this into the next thing for myself. Do you remember what that was like?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of there's a lot to it, because it was a long process of I was in Colorado working, doing the basement remodel thing. And then all of a sudden, like, the bottom just fell out of that, or started falling out of that. So I pivoted and I took a job working for a restoration contractor. And I was like, all right, well, I still have this construction business, but it's not doing enough to sustain. I can't even pay my bills. So I took a job as a superintendent doing construction remodeling projects for a restoration, fire and water restoration. And I just pivot, kept trying, and I did that, and then from there is where I actually learned about the whole idea and or career path of becoming an insurance adjuster. So there's two guys that worked at that company that they used to talk about the good old days where they were making all this money and they were traveling, working hurricanes and working all over the country and hailstorms and tornadoes, and and making all this money from the insurance company. And I was like, man, I could probably do that. And I was at the point where I needed to do something. Like the 40 grand or whatever I was getting as a superintendent, as an entry level contractor, like working for this company, was nowhere near enough to what I needed to get myself out of the debt and the hole that I dug myself into. So I was always looking. Right. So you can either get to a point where you get depressed and you just like close off, or you always keep a feeler out. I've always had antennas up. Like, I had this conversation just the other day where you got to, when an opportunity happens, you got to jump on that opportunity. You got to have your feelers out there, if you will, to try to find opportunities. And the opportunity came to move to Texas. And I figured out that, hey, if I'm in Texas, if I can become a resident there, I can get a license as an adjuster, and then that's reciprocal in 32 states. So that's going to kind of fast track me into this adjusting career, if you will. And then I can do that for a little while and help me get out of debt and help me kind of fix everything. And that was kind of the path. So I went after it, went for it, moved to Texas on a whim and went for it. And then I get to Texas and I realized that there was a lot of work to do to become an adjuster. So I started the training. I needed to live. So I took a job waiting tables. I took a job installing cable. I just did whatever I had to do to survive. And at that point was probably the lowest point. I was pretty depressed. I was in a pretty dark place. And there was a lot of long, hard days of what am I doing? How am I going to get out of this? But I just kept one day at a time, kept plugging along. And then I finally got to the point where, the creditors and the debtors was just so overwhelming that I was like, I'm not going to get out of this in time, that I figured out that, what, I have to hit the reset button and file bankruptcy. And that was a really, really hard time in my life and a really hard decision to make. But essentially right around the time I made that decision was the time I got another opportunity to come back to Colorado and sell roofs. So like, all right, well, here we go. Here's another, just chase this rabbit trail and see if I can go sell roofs and figure that out. I actually had started kind of dabbling in roofing sales while I was in Texas. And then after the short career with the insurance adjusting. So I did do that. I did get my license and I did go travel and do all that. But I realized real quick that traveling like that, being gone from your family, being just by yourself and in random places, just working 7 days a week, wasn't exactly a lifestyle that really fit me. So that was kind of short lived. And then I got into the roofing sales, and my buddy had called, random guy from college, again, random opportunity. And he's like, hey man, I can get you a job selling roofs for this company in Denver. And there's a big hailstorm. Just, you can make a lot of money. I'm like, what else I got to lose? At this point, I was so broke that I had nothing else to lose. So I borrowed my sister's credit card to put gas in my truck, packed everything I could in my truck, and moved back from Texas to Colorado. Lived on couches and was able to scrape up enough money to get an extended stay. But I think the moral of the story is you just keep pressing on. You just keep pressing forward. You can't let the downs in life and the depression and stuff consume you, because then you just get paralyzed. I always just push forward. And I think a big takeaway there is faith, man. At some point you got to just have faith in what you're doing, and have faith that your neck, there's going to be something positive around the corner, and just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. I wanted to briefly touch on the storm chasing thing, because for me, it sounds kind of fun. I think hailstorms, I think Twister, I think of the movie, and you're driving into the eye of the storm. And obviously it's not quite like that, but what exactly does it involve when you're chasing storms? Because out here in Canada, we don't necessarily have those types of storms, so we don't see it too often out here. So what does that look like?
Yeah, it's definitely not the Twister movie. We get there after the fact. So big storm happens and a bunch of damage happens, and you go to wherever that is, and you find temporary housing, and you work either with a company that goes, or you find a local company to work for, and you just go knock doors and sell roofs, and you try to get as much revenue as you can as quickly as you can to get in and make a decent. You can make some good money, and then you're there for 6 months to a year, depending on the situation. And then you go to the next one. Some people just have done this their entire career, entire life. And for the type of person that loves that sort of adventure lifestyle of traveling around and going different places, it's a great idea. I thought that's what I wanted. I thought I'd like that, but then I realized that, Colorado's my home, and I don't want to be away from here. And that what I thought was a lifestyle for me ended up, it just wasn't. So I had to pivot and had to find something else to do. So I kind of, instead of storm chasing, we decided to start storm catching, storm prepping, if you will. So we prep for the storm all the time, and then when we do get a hailstorm, we're ready to capitalize on it as quickly and effectively as we can.
And those hailstorms are obviously caught under the insurance umbrella that the homeowner carries.
Yep, exactly.
So it's a little bit easier of a sale when you're knocking on the door than somebody that's just knocking on doors trying to sell another service that somebody may or may not need. This person has an actual need when you're showing up.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, imagine a scenario where, a whole neighborhood or thousands of roofs get damaged with hail. They need your service, and all they have to do is pay a deductible. So unfortunately, yeah, and theoretically, like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of people jump in, and a lot of people are in this business. And when you have that saturated of a business, you get unscrupulous activity that happens all the time, and people get ripped off all the time. And there's kind of a big, kind of a negative connotation, if you will, within our industry. And that's kind of what led me to build my company, then ultimately to develop the academies, because I'm trying to clean up the industry and trying to prove that good quality contractors and entrepreneurs and business people are in this industry and can do a great job and really take good care of customers and houses and rebuild things without ripping each other and the other people off, which unfortunately people hear a lot more about the negative stuff than they do the positives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to the first time that I got involved in construction when I was 18, and I was a carpenter's helper. And we were renovating this heritage home in North Vancouver, and they had the roof being torn off. And my first interaction with a roofer was this tall, lanky guy. And he had a smoke in his mouth and a 2-liter of Coke in the other hand and a pack of shingles on his shoulder. And he's running up the ladder and running down the ladder. And that, I feel as though some people get that sort of connotation. Trades in general they're kind of the black sheep industry in ways that I think yourself and myself and the BTA guys and a lot of people that are starting to shed a positive light on the industry are focusing on. But roofers in particular is one of those trades where they're up and they're sweating on a hot roof, and I don't think people have the best picture painted about them. But in combing through your stuff and getting to know you and seeing the way that you guys do things, you definitely are turning it around. And how did that transition from selling the roofs to eventually owning a roofing company, and then now seeing it where you've hit fastest growing private company 2 years in a row?
Well, I realized kind of early on in doing the sales, I was blessed with the God-given ability to sell, and I did really well early on with sales. So I was able to kind of get myself back on my feet financially and do pretty well there. And I realized that there was a big need in our industry, and or opportunity for someone to come in and build a really good, solid brand with really good values and have a good business approach to it. And I figured out that there's so many companies that are ran and owned by people with no business experience whatsoever. And I'm going to school with business and all the failures, and I had a lot of business experience. And I was like, man, if I can just take business skills and some integrity and values and put those into a business, I think I can build a great company out of that. And that was kind of a theory at the time. And I didn't really agree with how the company was ran and how it operated, the one I used to work for. And I was like, you know what? At some point I got to do this on my own, and I want to see if I can apply these principles and build my own brand, to build my own company, and just one thing at a time. Obviously it was a very difficult time. I went broke and almost lost it a few times, but again, you just persevere. And I think the key to all that, it doesn't matter whether you're a roofing company or electrical company or whatever it is, if you want to build a good company, you have to lay a foundation of good quality values. Like, be a good person, have good, solid values, and use those values to build a base for your company. You hire people based on those values. You create branding and marketing and your strategies based on those values. And that gives you a great foundation to build a great company. And that's what I attribute all of our success to.
And when you got into the company for the first time, when did you bring on your partner? His name's Cody, right?
Cody, yep.
Was he there from the very beginning, or was he brought in later in the game?
So when we launched the roofing brand, I did that myself, and I brought on my mom as my first admin. She was helping me in the office and run the office and do the books and stuff. But I think Cody came in within the first year. So within the first year, I realized that, hey, we needed good salespeople. So at first I was like, hey, he happened to be on a sabbatical or like on a break from his business he was doing before. He was in property management, and they were transitioning some properties. So he kind of had a couple months where he just had some time off. And I was like, hey man, just come work with me, sell some roofs. I think you'd be really good at it. And then he was really good at it. And through that, we're like, hey, why don't I realized that one, he counteracted. He was strong in areas that I was weak, and vice versa. And it just made for a good balance there. And I also realized that as my best friend growing up, I'm not this employee-employer relationship isn't going to work long term. So I decided to say, hey man, why don't you just join me? Let's partner up and try to make this thing really, really happen on a larger scale and make a big business out of this. And he said yes, and the rest is history.
And he's still there, obviously.
Still there. He's crushing it. He's at the office just about every day, and VP of sales. He runs our residential sales department and runs a couple other small departments. And I get to focus on the commercial side and like the more ideas and kind of more of the visionary type role, if you will. And then he and I promoted a CEO recently. So now we aren't even the bosses anymore in our own company. And that was ultimately the best decision we ever made. It's humming on all cylinders right now. And we both have the freedom to focus in our lane doing what we do best. And it's a recipe for success. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any advice that you can give people that are maybe hesitant to bring in a friend or a family member into a business? Because I've seen it go both ways. You take your case, it went great. You look at some other guy on the other side and it just completely went to shit. And sometimes I don't know if there's necessarily a recipe for that. And obviously you need to know the people that you're getting into bed with, so to speak, before you decide to get a contract going. But what did that look like, or what lessons did you learn with bringing in a friend and a family member so early in your business? And do you have any advice for anybody that's thinking of partnering up with somebody to run a business? Because obviously I had a partnership that didn't end the best way, and there was a lot of learning lessons and takeaways that I garnered from that situation. But what's your experience, and what advice can you lend to anybody that may be looking to partner up or even bring a family member in?
I think it comes down to personal style and personal skill sets. Like you got to understand like what you're really good at. And if you have two people who have the same personality, it's not going to work out very well. Two type A's that are both extroverts, that both have certain mentalities, they're going to clash at some point. So you really want to find people that are different from you, that also share the same vision and the same values, if that makes sense. And yeah, to an extent, I was blessed with a great friend and family members that have grown with the company, and we've kind of worked them into positions that fit their strengths. And that's the other key is you want to put someone in a position that fits their strengths naturally. And if it just so happens to be a friend, great, but don't just put someone in a position just because they're your friend or your family member. That's where we fail. We think we need this position. We have this family member. It obviously is going to work. Let's just put them in this position. It doesn't work, and if they're not wired to do that position and be really good at what they're being asked to do. Because if somebody's in a role that naturally fits their skill set, they're going to be a lot happier. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to want to learn. They're going to want to grow. And you kind of got to make sure you find people that are different in a sense and have different skill sets. So what I'm really good at, like Cody's not very good at, but what he's really good at, I'm not very good at. And then Bree is the third one in there that what she's really good at, neither of him and I are very good at. So it's a really good dynamic because we all have different skill sets. We also have different roles in the business as well that fit our natural skill set. And that's how we've been able to build a really successful organization underneath that, because we use that same concept as we hire and train and develop people.
I think that's super important because even in owning my own company and working for other companies, I find a lot of people, they scrap the job agreement or the job description. They don't have KPIs for their staff. They end up just saying, we've got a hole to fill over here. So-and-so has proven himself or herself in this role for so long. We're just going to promote them, pay them a bit of extra cash and shove them in this direction. And hopefully they like it. And I've seen too many times where people are told, this is your job title now. We change your business card. We change your email signature. We're going to give you a little raise. We're going to stick you in this corner, in this bucket. And this person goes over to that corner in that bucket and they sit there and they say, okay, what do you want me to do? Because A, I don't really like this. B, I'm not really good at it. And C, I also don't know what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm sitting here. And I think that's an area where a lot of businesses fail, is by, instead of focusing on the recruitment aspect and really playing up those strengths, as you mentioned, is they just start slotting people into positions and saying, go here, go there, do this, do that. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, there is no structure, there is no guidance, there's no leadership. These people are in roles they don't like. And then you start to get the attrition and people start leaving. And then you get a lack of trust with the leadership. So it's super important. And I see it so many times, and it's happened to me, and it's a terrible thing for a business.
Yeah, I mean, don't get it wrong. We're still learning and growing, and everything I share is all because I learned the hard way. It's not because I got it all figured out. It's because I made all these mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
And, I've had a lot of family work. Yeah, we see now we have, a couple family members left, but I've had over 8 family members work for the company at one given time throughout the journey, and it didn't work out. Many a time, most of the time it didn't work out, and a couple times it did work out, which is great. But again, I think it all comes down to values, vision, and strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, for sure. How do you guys keep score and measure success for your business? How do you decide upon which KPIs you're going to measure against? And how do you look back at the end of a quarter or the end of a year and say, we were successful or we weren't successful? Do you have any tips for keeping score to measure that success? Because some people, I find, they set unrealistic goals that don't follow the SMART acronym. So they don't know when they've achieved that place. And they also never stop to celebrate along the way. So they never really feel like they've ever achieved anything. And that can be detrimental to your mental health when you're trying to push in a certain direction. So what do you guys use to keep score and measure success at Elite?
Well, I look at it from a couple different perspectives. Of one, yeah, you're setting, goals, you're establishing KPIs and performance and rating people based on their performance. But I like the idea of the big hairy goals, right? The big hairy audacious goals, the setting your goal like super high, where you can like but again you even said it where you want to kind of celebrate along the way. Celebrate all the little small things. If you're always celebrating and always trying to get better, and people genuinely really appreciate recognition well over money and that sort of thing. So if you set this huge goal, which I like that idea of setting unattainable goals, because you're always pushing yourself to be the best that you can possibly be. You're always pushing the limit. You're always growing. But if you're not like enjoying the journey, then that's where you can go wrong. So when it comes to just numbers perspective, yeah, you want to look at numbers. Every role, every position in the business has a specific number that they need to focus on. And you got to figure that out. What's that critical number? Every position has a number. I mean, for the person answering the phone, the number might be 2 rings. Can you answer the phone every time within 2 rings? So you can narrow it down to every position, find a number, and I guess connect or like measure someone against that number on a regular basis, every 2 weeks, every couple of weeks. People should always be setting goals. Goal setting and review is huge. So we set goals all the time, but we also have these big, broad goals that we're all kind of leaning towards that same goal that we may never achieve, but we're just enjoying the journey and enjoying, and celebrating every little achievement that we have along the way. And that just helps kind of build a good culture. But you got to have accountability in place. Everybody's got to have a number. They've got to be held accountable. They've got to know what their role are and what their responsibilities are. And all those KPIs, if you will, or that critical number, they all need to be going towards the one common big goal. And is that a profitability goal? Is it a revenue goal? Is it a goal to make sure everybody's taken care of financially, creating opportunities for people, whatever that goal may be. Every company has their own kind of culture, if you will, but the key is you don't want people going in different directions. Everybody's going to be moving towards the same common goal.
And when you guys are setting those goals, what does the process look like? So I'm not sure if you have an annual strategic session where you're physically getting out of the office and going and spending some alone time with either Cody or Bree as the CEO, and you guys are looking from a 50,000 foot view of maybe 1 or 2 years back, 1 or 2 years forward. And then I'm sure you have smaller goals that you set division by division or person by person. And how do you set those goals? And do you have a process that you use to reflect back to look at how you performed, where you need to go? Because obviously it seems as though you have the people in place and you've created the KPIs and all of this stuff. Because I don't think I could ask you, what was the one thing you think you can attribute to being a Inc. 5000 fastest growing private company? Because it's a combination of culture and people and KPIs. But in terms of the goal setting, because that keeps people on track, how do you guys approach the goal setting from the macro point of view with the upper management, and then the micro point of view with everybody else that's within the office?
So it starts with, we do have an event every year. So we have we call it a strategic planning event. And we get everyone out of the office, and we rent out like a room at a hotel, and we'll do a 1-day full-on session. And we do this after our leadership team does it as well. So my partner and I will go away for a day or two, and we'll go through all of our annual kind of big picture. What's our goals for the year? What do we want to accomplish? Where do we fail? Where can we get better? SWOT analysis is usually a part of it as well. And so we do that ahead of time. So then we present to the whole company, hey, this is the vision. So I kind of do like a whole vision talk. This is the vision. This is where we failed. This is where we want to get better. This is what our big vision is for the company. And then we let everybody break out into their own individual departments. And then they set department goals for the year, for the quarter, and for the year, for each quarter, and then for the year. And then we come back together, and then we do a session where they all set personal goals. So we kind of do it on a multifaceted approach and on that one big 1-day kind of meeting. And that works out really well to kind of lay the foundation of how we're going to approach each year. And then as an ongoing, from a micro level, every 2 weeks, every department has a goal setting meeting. So we don't do it individually, we do it as a group. So we keep it on a spreadsheet, and we have like 12 people on our staff in the office, if you will, just the office staff. So every 2 weeks they have a meeting, and we go over their goals. What were their goal for last 2 weeks? Did they hit it, and why or why not? And we track it all on a spreadsheet, and they set their own goals. They give themselves their own analysis, if they will. Was it did you nail it? Did you hit your goal? Did you miss your goal? Did you almost hit your goal? We kind of have a little scale where it's red, green, or orange is kind of in the middle. And they kind of give themselves a self-evaluation. And we do this every 2 weeks, ongoing, all throughout the whole year. And then at each quarter, we'll review more broader quarterly type stuff. We try to break the year out into 3-month segments. I think that's a great way to analyze your business is you should break your whole year out into quarters, and every 3 months, every 90 days, like 90-day sprints, if you will. And then we just do that throughout the whole company. And that's just a regular thing. Everybody knows you have this meeting every 2 weeks. And you're going to be there and have your goals set. With our sales team, we do it every week. So they have certain goals they have to set every single week. And then I think the key to that too is don't overwhelm yourself or overwhelm your staff with it. Keep it simple, primary and secondary. So on the micro level, on a macro level, you can have a whole bunch of goals you want to accomplish in a quarter or in the year, if you will, but you want to break those down into micro segments every 2 weeks. Like, what's your primary goal and secondary goal this week? And another key to that is, don't set goals of, I want to keep doing this. That doesn't work. You want to set something that's a tangible, achievable, measurable goal. It has a number related to it. I want to get 10 contracts written or whatever. You want to have those specific goals that you can measure yourself against. So you can't just have a broad continuation of whatever you're already doing. So we've kind of fell into habits of doing that, and we had to kind of break that up a little bit.
And do you guys facilitate that, or like, do they have to present it, or are they self-governed where they set the goal and they just run with it and they're reflecting, or is somebody like a manager checking in to see how their progress is going, and if they get stuck, lend them a hand, that type of thing?
They are required to update their own goals on the same spreadsheet. We do a shared spreadsheet, and then there's one person, and not an owner or a manager. There's someone in the office, our office manager actually, in our office meetings. So the office manager is the one reviewing everybody's goals live. Everyone does it around the table, and so we have one person that's inundated, that's in that group or in that division, doing the facilitating the meeting. So it's not always like an owner or like the CEO doing it. We have someone else actually helping facilitate that, helps them all kind of really take ownership, but they're required to update their own goals. And I like the idea of self-evaluation. Like, give yourself a grade. I don't want to tell you did a crappy job. You tell yourself you did a crappy job.
Yeah.
Or you didn't hit your goal.
Self-governance, micromanaging, it never really works out when you got somebody holding that over your head.
And then to add one more piece to that is coaching. So that's where the leadership team, the CEO, the owners, we're going to have individual coaching meetings with our staff every 3 months or so. And that's when we're going to go a little deeper and get to the root of, hey, I've noticed you've missed a lot of goals over the last quarter. What's going on? And how can I help you? How can I coach you be a better person, be better at your job? Are we providing the right opportunities? And that we kind of have these coaching sessions as well on top of the group GSNR meetings.
That's great. At what point in the business did you realize that you've kind of acquired enough information and you felt that you have reached a place where you can now break off and start going down other paths, like the coaching platform that you have now, writing the book? Those are two things where, from an outsider looking in, I see that you reached like a critical juncture where you decided, now is my time to give back outside my company to a broader audience. How did that end up coming to the forefront of your mind, and how did you decide that now I'm going to dedicate this time to giving back to other people and trying to bring the industry up instead of just my company?
So I didn't reach a point that I was going to focus on giving back to other people. I was doing that all along. So all along the entire journey, my focus has always been find people better than me. I know it's hard, swallow your pride, but if you can grasp this concept. I suck at admin. I suck at a lot of things. My sales team would outsell the shit out of me. And a couple of years ago, I would have been arguably, I'm the best salesman in the country. And now I have a team of 12, 15 guys that are all better salesmen. Find people better than you and be humble enough to understand that if you find people who are better than you at different skill sets and different things, and you give them a platform, you give them an opportunity to grow, you can work yourself out of a job. And that's okay. As an entrepreneur, my job, my role is to cast the vision and to lead my people. And by doing that, by holding them hostage, by not letting them grow because I'm holding on to my pride or holding on to a position that I feel like if I give up this position, I lose control, it holds the whole company hostage. So I played each role. I've done every single role in the business, and within each one, I found someone better than me. Did this role, found someone better than me. Did this role, found and developed people to become better than me at those roles. And eventually I got to a place, again, I had the vision all along as an entrepreneur to get to a place you can build a business that essentially runs itself. But again, there's a fine line of building a business and abandoning it, or building a business but finding your niche. Like, I just happen to be, my strengths are really in ideas and vision and optimism and leadership, and I can come and help lead and coach and guide people, and that's what I'm really good at. So I built a position over a long period of time to where that's my role, and in doing so, that's built a lot of other people up. They take ownership, they've developed and become leaders within their own right, and we developed a whole team of leaders. And that allowed me to be able to work my way into a position where I can do some of the other things that I'm passionate about, which is helping others and providing resources to help other entrepreneurs learn and grow as well. And that's kind of how it happened, really. So the bottom line is find people better than yourself.
Yep. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're the smartest person in the business,
Yeah.
your business isn't going to grow.
Yeah. You see it happen so often where people can't relinquish that control. And one of the other things, I believe I read this in your book, but I could be wrong. You can fact check that, is the pressure to have all the answers as the business owner. And
Oh yeah. I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it's something that I feel as well. Even though I'm not currently a business owner, I'm a solopreneur with the podcast, and it's more of a passion project than a financial project. But at some point, when even myself, and probably it's because I'm more A-type, I feel as though if somebody comes to me and I don't have the answer, I beat myself up a little bit. Like, you're in this role, somebody asks you something pertaining to your role, you should have that answer. And or you feel as though if you get stuck somewhere and you're alone, that you can't reach out to ask the question. So what would you say to an entrepreneur that feels the pressure to need to have all the answers? Because that ties right into not being able to relinquish the control, because you feel as though you need to have your hands on all the strings, making it all work all the time.
Yeah, and that is a lot of pressure. It's real. As an owner, as an entrepreneur, you're expected to have all the answers. The ball rolls uphill. You're the last stop, right? Everything, all the crap comes right down on you, and you're expected to have all the answers. But I believe in mentorship, man. I think you should always be looking to surround yourself and don't be afraid to approach people that know more than you, that are better than you, that have more experience than you. And I've always had a mentality of trying to find people that I can learn from and that can mentor me, whether they knew it or not. I've always had mentors. And to this day, I have a ton of mentors, like super great, really great people, really successful people that I get to lean on a regular basis, because I still don't have all the answers. I mean, you go from where we went from a little mom and pop all the way up to where we are now, a full-on corporation. Like, I still don't have all the answers. I'm still expected to have all the answers. But I've surrounded myself with really talented mentors and coaches and business coaches and stuff like that. It's okay to have a business coach. Okay, you're not a bad entrepreneur if you pay for a business coach. I have multiple business coaches, and I also coach multiple people. They don't even realize it, but for my really low rate, they're getting thousands and thousands of dollars of advice that I'm paying for trickled right down into them. But it's all about learning and growing and surrounding yourself with people that you can learn and grow from. So same concept. If you're the dumbest person in the room, you're in the right room. Like, surround yourself with people who are smarter, more successful than you, and you will be successful. So even as the owner, you're going to have to step outside your business, but it's okay. Look for mentors, look for, people that you can learn from outside your industry, outside of your business, whatever it is. Don't be too shy and too proud to go ask somebody sometimes. You're expected to have all the answers, but you don't. It's okay to go ask somebody. People will actually respect you more when you tell them, hey, you know what? I don't have that answer, but I'm willing to go find out, and I'll learn. And my staff knows that I'm just trying to learn just like they are. And that's how I lead by example, is I'm always learning, and I like consuming books and listening to podcasts and meeting with people and my coaches and meeting with them. Like, I'm always learning, always trying to learn and grow. And it reciprocates right down on them. And now they're always trying to do the same thing as well. And they have even more respect for me, even though I don't have all the answers.
And I find that some people think that when they need to find a mentor, they're looking around and they say, okay, well, I'm going to look in my industry. I'm going to find somebody that's killing it in my industry. I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to ask them for mentorship. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. And you touched on the coaching aspect, which obviously you're involved in now. But if somebody's listening to this and they've been beating their head against the wall saying, oh, I need a mentor. I need somebody to tell me what to do. I need somebody to give me the answer. How would you help them reframe that to say, you're not going to necessarily reach out to the CEO of the largest electrical company in Canada or in the US?
Why not?
Well, you could, but the odds of asking that guy for direct mentorship is not always an approach that's going to work. And I think people get focused on having to find one person in their life that they can get all the answers from. And like you mentioned, there's podcasts, there's books, there's coaching. So, okay, maybe somebody is going to reach out to that guy. How would you motivate them to take that leap? Because a lot of people never will.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people that have reached that level of success, a lot of them have a passion for helping others. You'd be surprised. A lot of people with big, huge companies, they didn't get that. They didn't just wake up one day and have a huge company. Like, they built that company because of their mentoring and training and helping other people learn and grow. I mean, case in point. And and don't be afraid to reach out to someone. When I was first starting my roofing company, I reached out to one of the most successful roofing companies I knew of, and an owner that I really respected. And I was like, hey, can we grab coffee someday? Or let me buy you a beer. He said yes. To this day, we're still friends. We're direct competitors, man. We're two of the biggest companies in our market, but we're still good buddies. Like, I can call him up, he can call me up, and we'll run things by each other. And believe it or not, even though you're just young and learning, the higher ups, I'm always learning, they're going to learn from you as well. And somebody that's respected in business, that truly cares about others, they're going to be open, and they're going to be willing to help you. But the key is, don't be too scared to reach out and ask that, to knock on that door, right? Hey, I know you're successful, but hey, what can I do to get some of your time? What can I do I want to learn and grow. I'm trying to build a great business. I'm trying to get better at my craft. When can we have coffee? When can we have lunch? Something like that. You'd be surprised that actually you may have to knock on a handful of doors, but somebody's going to say yes at some point, and then it'll just continue to manifest and reciprocate itself. So you kind of just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I guess thinking back to the way I asked the question, that's kind of what I've been doing here with this platform, and how I've ended up in the role that I am now is just by reaching out to people, calling, hitting them up on LinkedIn, messaging whoever you can, trying to get past a gatekeeper saying, hey, I want to chat with you. Do you have even 30 minutes just to have a quick chat? This is why I have this. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking for. And you're right. It does work. People actually do get back to you when you're genuine and they don't feel you have an ulterior motive. People do reply, and they do reciprocate that for sure.
Yeah. Successful people really like to talk about their success.
Absolutely. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves, right?
Right. It's human nature. So
Yeah.
You gotta, don't try to sell them anything. Just toot their horn a little bit,
That's it. You read a lot of books. I've been following you, and you're trying to read 50 books this year, I think.
I'm trying, man.
How's that going?
I think I'm on number 29 right now. So I fell behind a little bit last month. Took a little time off, played a lot of golf, but I'm not as traveling as much. So when I was traveling a whole bunch, it was like I would listen to books on planes all the time. So I'm a little behind, but I still try to every day consume a little bit,
Yeah.
at least a little bit. So I'm reading a book now by John Maxwell, The 5 Levels of Leadership, which is just tremendous. And all his books are great. I'm actually going through his program to become a certified mentor, John Maxwell speaker and coach. And you're asking about quotes. I think that's a question you're asking. And
Yep.
2 of my favorite quotes come from him. One is everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything in a business rises and falls on leadership. And it's just, let that sink in a little bit, because it's small business, big business, entrepreneurship, you're working for somebody, you want to start a business, whatever you do in life, if you can become a great leader, you can excel. And if you can surround yourself by great leaders, you can learn and grow. So everything rises and falls on leadership. So that's one of my favorites. And then another one that I mentioned earlier was, you sometimes in entrepreneurship, you just got to jump and build your wings on the way down.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that may be looking at themselves in the mirror and they're thinking, man, I was never good on the basketball team. I never made captain. I don't think that I can coach people. I don't think that I'm a natural born leader. So I'm just going to settle for less because I don't think it's in my DNA. And I personally believe that is a skill you can acquire, and it doesn't have to be direct leadership in a capacity where you're providing information as somebody that is a subject matter expert. But what would you say to somebody that doesn't believe it's in their DNA to be a leader?
That's self-doubt, man. You're lying to yourself. Some little bird on your shoulder is telling you all that. It's a bunch of bull crap, because leadership can be trained. You can learn how to be a great leader. It can be done. So you never know, and you can lead from below, you can lead from above, leading up the chain. Another great book is Extreme Ownership, by Leif Babin and
Chaco.
Willink.
That's a great book.
You can lead from all positions. Everybody has leadership capacity. I mean, you lead your kids. If you have kids, you're a leader of your kids. So don't let that self-doubt you get in your mind of, I'm not a leader. Nobody's a leader. You learn to become a leader by learning and growing and being humble and understanding that you aren't going to be great at everything. And the best way to start is to embrace self-awareness. So for those of you who are out there that don't think you could be a leader, that have this self-doubt, and you're like, and you kind of tell yourself that you don't know what it takes to become a great leader, dive in deep and figure out who you are. Okay. Self-awareness is the key to all of that. Once you can understand who you are, how you're wired, what makes you tick, what's your why, then you can definitely become a leader in any position that you are.
Amen. Amen. Is there anything that you can speak to about your coaching platform to make people more aware if they want to reach out to you, they want to get a hold of you, they want some information about the coaching, and you can also chat a bit about your book and how that came about and what's in there for people?
Sure. I'll focus on the book. The coaching is really geared towards roofing contractors. So,
okay,
the roofingacademy.com, you can find out all about it. We built an entire platform that facilitates, coaching as well as education, both virtual as well as, coaching. Me, myself, and I have a couple other coaches that we just work with and help contractors build and grow their roofing companies. So from startup all the way to scalability, we got something for you. We have a platform and a whole bunch of partners and software partners and all these different partners that are able to help as well. And but from the book side of things, when I first started my business as a general contractor trying to build a construction company, I looked for a book. I graduated college and I was like all about education, trying to learn what I could. And I looked far and wide for a book and have some sort of a business book, if you will, for contractors. And it didn't really exist at the time. So fast forward 15 years and a lot of money lost and failures and ultimately some pretty cool successes. I ended up writing that book. So that's the idea, is I wanted to create a book that's it's not as thick as the Bible. It's a book that is practical, that shares a lot of practical experience, but also applicable things that you can apply to your business to get that thing started on the right foot. So that's the whole idea. It's called Start It, Build It, Grow It: The Contractor's Guide to Success. And it's that's all it is. It's designed to kind of be a blueprint. Gets the pun? A blueprint to start build and grow a successful construction company or successful trades business.
And I read somewhere that you encourage people to give it away.
Yeah, I did a promotion that, and to this day I'll still do it. If you buy the book and give it to somebody, I'll send you another signed version for free.
That's amazing. Giving right back. Well, before we segue into wrapping up a few things here, I wanted to ask you a few quick answer questions. These are just things that pique my curiosity because I'm looking for them or I'm doing them and I'm always wondering. And one of them is kind of a bit left field, but the reason why I asked the question is because I have a problem consuming too much coffee. I drank a coffee before I got on the air here, and I know in every site, every trailer, every job site I've ever been on, everybody's going for coffee runs. How much coffee do you drink a day?
A lot. But here's the thing, though, man. I fall into that category of recovery, man. So I try not to drink or do drugs or anything like that anymore. So it's like coffee is kind of my bridge, if you will. So I maybe not a lot. Some people it's more so, but I'm a good 3 to 4 cups a day for sure, type of day. But what I've learned is I have one of those mugs that keeps it really hot.
Yeah.
And if I use that, I sip on it instead of just chugging cups of coffee all morning. So I can take that mug and have it with me all day long, and it helps me not consume quite as much. However, I'll probably get off of this and go get a cup of coffee. But I've also switched up to these little drinks, the quad drinks. These
carbonated water.
Carbonated waters. I'm addicted to these things too.
Yeah, we got a Soda Stream because we were buying way too much of that stuff, and I said to my wife, I was like, we got to get one of these because I'm just blowing the budget on these canned carbonated beverages.
I have 2 of them sitting right here from the time we started this. Lots of coffee, but I probably need to back off a little. I'm trying to kind of spread it out instead of just piling it in the morning. I'll kind of have a couple cups in the morning and then maybe 1 in the afternoon. So average about 3.
Okay. Any specific roast or brand or place that you would go to most often?
I have a Keurig, and I like I drink black coffee. So I like there's a flavor that they have on a Keurig called Graham. It's like a graham cracker flavor from Starbucks, and I found it a couple weeks ago, and it's really great. But if I'm really want to get really good coffee, I love Kona. Kona coffee, anything from Kona, Hawaii, really, really good solid coffee.
Oh yeah, it's super good. What is your favorite piece of tech or software or favorite tool that you use on a regular basis? Anything, app, Fitbit, Apple Watch, something that you always have on you that you just can't live without.
So it's charging now, but man, I keep my headset, like my headset that I plug into my ears, and my watch all the time. It's like, I don't know, it just helps me be really efficient. So I use my Samsung watch and my headset all the time, along with my phone, and I just crank through, and I'm able to stay super efficient, super dialed in all day long when I'm working.
Catch the phone calls, toss the headphones in.
Yep.
Awesome. What's one system, tool, or process that has had very minimal startup cost and time that has proven to be a huge asset in any of your businesses or even in your daily life that you've implemented that has just been like, wow, this thing took no time at all to put in. We spent no money on it, but look at what it's done for us. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, you have to have a CRM, but I don't want to go there. That's pretty redundant. But one thing that for us in the construction trades business is taking photos of every job and having people capture photos. So we found a company called Company Cam, and that's been just a game changer for the whole industry, really, for our business. Every time someone takes a picture out in the field, my staff at the office can automatically see it. It's legit. Company Cam is an awesome software.
So it's like a cloud-based photo. Do you have to take the picture through the app, or do you just take it on your phone?
Through the app. That way it's not being saved on your phone.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, what if you take,
it timestamps it and it geostamps it. So it tells you where you are when it's taken, and it timestamps it, and you have the ability to edit it. So like if I take a picture on a roof and I want to mark, hey, there's 5 vents, I can just handwrite in there on the picture, 5 vents, put an arrow to this vent, take a picture, and my production manager automatically has it within seconds.
Do you guys fly drones up on the roof?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of our guys have drones. We do drone inspections, but they're not super efficient. It's just kind of gimmicky and cool.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned a couple books, but what are the top 3 books that you recommend most other people, or you constantly are looking back at, or you give away the most besides your own?
That's tough because I read and listen to so many books. I can almost answer this per genre. But if you're just saying historically, books that I've latched on to early in my career and still go back to every once in a while, my number one book that I always recommend for people, and I try to listen to it at least once a year, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey. That's like the anchor of all books, if you will, for all entrepreneurship. I love that book. Another one is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yep. Maybe I'm being a little redundant here. Most people maybe have heard these, but that's another classic. That's just a great book to really get your mindset in the right place. And then you can't go wrong with Rich Dad Poor Dad either, with Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, I've seen Robert's posting a bunch of stuff out here in Toronto. I think he's coming out here for another event. Have you ever seen him live?
I haven't, and I know a lot of his events that he just has people working for him at this point.
Oh, really? He doesn't actually come? Yeah, I can see.
Lately, though, to answer that another way, like I've been diving really heavy into John Maxwell stuff, man. I'm a big fan of John C. Maxwell. I love all of his content, and I think he's the number one leadership trainer in the world. And I'm a certified John Maxwell speaker as well, and I'm going through a bunch of training and seminars with him as well to just learn and be able to kind of deliver his content as well.
That's amazing. And last but not least, what is the one thing that you hate in your business that you'll never do and you'll always delegate? Like even if somebody says we have nobody do it, you just won't step there because you hate it so much.
Paperwork.
Yeah. I don't think anybody likes that.
I like to a level of like, I will, my consulting company, like I've had an admins from day one, and we didn't even start generating revenue until like a year after I started, and I was paying someone to do stuff and paperwork and do the admin stuff because I just literally it cringed. It just like makes me feel like I'm in a box, or I just can't do it. Paperwork. Oh, yeah. I can't do paperwork and administrative stuff, man. It just crushes me.
Oh, that's it. Is there anything else that you want to speak to or touch on before we wrap up here?
Man, that's tough. We covered a lot today, man. I'm proud of you. I think it's cool that you're doing this podcast. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the biggest takeaway for anyone out there that wants to kind of take themselves or their career, their business to the next level is to embrace themselves as a leader. Try to learn how to be the best leader and best person that you can be, and you're going to achieve new levels of success that you never even realized were even possible. So embrace leadership, be humble, and enjoy the journey.
Awesome. And where can people reach out to you if they want more information about your coaching? Where can they find your books? Lay it all out for us.
Yeah, you can get the book at Amazon.com. Just search out Start It, Build It, Grow It, and it'll pop up on Amazon.com. Our website is theroofingacademy.com, and you can get a hold of me on there as well. I have bookings and all that stuff on that, but I'm pretty active on Facebook and social media. So I have a number of handles on Facebook, Instagram. I have a handful of YouTube channels as well. So you just search out Randy Brothers on any one of those channels, and you'll find me.
Perfect. And I will link to all that stuff on the website when we go live. And man, it's been a pleasure. And I'm so happy that I got the chance to meet you a few years ago. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you and absorbing all this great information that you've given me over the last, I don't even know, 3, 4, 5 years. So I appreciate you, man. And thank you so much for coming on.
Likewise, man. Keep crushing it, man. Wish you the best.
Hey everyone, Colin again. Thank you so much for listening. I had an awesome time, and I hope you were able to walk away with a little nugget of value or information that you can plug directly into your life and or business. To help me grow this thing, I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and share this with your friends. For more information about Tools of the Trade, check out toolspodcast.com, where you can find all of my social media links, show notes, episodes, and while you're there, hit the hook me up button to subscribe to my newsletter. Until next time, love you, thank you, and remember, there is no proof that life is meant to be taken seriously.